Jocelyn's guilt is eating her alive, and the truth about Cassius is more complicated than she knows. Oh, darlings, this first story is one that is going to sit with you long after the episode ends, because it is not about a villain scheming or a plan going sideways. It is about a young woman with a conscience sitting alone with something she did that she cannot take back. And the weight of it is becoming something she cannot carry quietly anymore. Jocelyn made a deal. She knows why she made it. The reasons were real and the stakes were enormous. Jason's freedom, Valentine's freedom, the ability to protect people she loves from consequences they did not deserve. She looked at the situation from every angle available to her, and she made the choice that seemed most necessary in that moment. She does not regret the deal itself exactly, but she regrets this part. The part where Cassius's name gets attached to things he did not do. The part where a man who kept his promises to her gets painted as a monster in the official record. When Liesl confronted her, standing there with that particular combination of grief and fury that only a mother who has lost too much can carry, Jocelyn could not maintain the clean distance she had been managing. Something broke open, and in a quiet moment afterward, she flashed back to something Cassius told her. A simple thing. He kept his promises. He said it plainly, and he meant it. And Jocelyn, sitting with the memory of that, looked somewhere beyond the ceiling of her hospital room and said she was sorry. She meant it. She meant every syllable of it. And the tears in her eyes were real. What Jocelyn does not know, what nobody in the lower levels of the WSB has been told, is that the apology she is directing towards someone she believes is gone may not need to travel as far as she thinks. Because Cassius took Z's deal. Of course he did. A man with his particular combination of skills, his knowledge of his father's world, his ability to work under assumed identities, Z recognized the value immediately. The official story says Cassius is dead. The actual story is considerably more complicated. So Jocelyn is carrying guilt for a lie that protected a man who is actually alive. And at some point, whether it comes through her conscience pushing her toward honesty, or through the WSB eventually crossing her path with Cassius in some unexpected context, that truth is going to arrive. And the conversation that follows is going to be one of the most emotionally complex scenes this show produces. She may tell Jack first. She may reach a point where she cannot hold it anymore and her boss becomes the person she confesses to. Or she may find herself standing face to face with Cassius himself someday, and the apology she whispered toward the ceiling will have the chance to be delivered directly to the person it was always meant for. Jason and Britt, is what they had truly over? Now, darlings, let's talk about the question that has the general hospital fan community divided right down the middle, because Jason is back, and Britt is back, and the thing that existed between them before everything fell apart is sitting in the middle of Port Charles like an open question that nobody has fully answered yet. Here is what we know. Before Jason disappeared, before the WSB took him, and the darkness of Jakarta swallowed him whole, there were real feelings between him and Britt. Words were said, not casual words. The kind of words that mean something, that you do not say unless you mean them, and you know the other person needs to hear them. Those words happened. They cannot unhappen. But here is what also happened. Months of separation. Jason going through something traumatic and transformative that changed who he is at a fundamental level. Britt going through her own version of that, the fake diagnosis unraveling, the captivity, the arrest, the stunning realization that her entire understanding of her own health and her own future was built on a lie constructed by someone who wanted to use her. Both of them came out the other side as different people than who they were when those words were said. And different people sometimes look at what they had and find that it fits differently than it did before. Not worse necessarily, just differently. Jason is focused on Danny. That is not a choice that leaves room for much else right now. And Jason being focused on Danny is actually the right thing. It is the most important and most overdue thing, which makes it impossible to argue with even if the timing is painful for other people who care about him. Britt has Tristan walking into her orbit at exactly this moment, which is either a coincidence or the universe doing what the universe does in Port Charles, introducing the next chapter at exactly the moment the current one needs some breathing room. The fans who love Jason and Britt are not wrong that what existed between them was real. They are also not wrong that real things sometimes need time and space before they can find their proper shape. This may be angst before resolution rather than a permanent ending. Or it may be the story genuinely moving towards something new for both of them. The only way to know is to keep watching. And keeping watching, darlings, is something we were always going to do. Jason and Danny leave and return on Friday with everything changed. And now, darlings, let us talk about the trip that every fan wished they could be a fly on the wall for, because Jason and Danny left Port Charles together. Just the two of them. No emergencies. No mob business. No WSB. No crises requiring Jason's particular set of skills. Just a father and a son going somewhere quiet to sort through the hardest thing either of them has ever had to say to the other. The conversation at the Quartermain boathouse before they left told us everything about where both of them are. Jason explained himself to Danny with honesty he has not always been able to manage with his son. He told him why he did what he did. Covering for Rocco was not a choice made without thought. It was made with the full understanding that Danny's connection to Rocco was real, that Rocco's family would lose him if the truth came out, and that Jason would want someone to do the same for Danny if the positions were ever reversed. Danny heard it. He understood it intellectually. But understanding why something happened and being fully healed from the experience of it are completely different journeys. And Danny needed more than an explanation. He needed time with his father in a context where his father was not being pulled away by the next thing. Tracy came by the boathouse. And Jason, who has always had a particular relationship with the Quartermains that is more complicated and more warm than it sometimes appears on the surface, asked her for something simple. Cover for us. Tell everyone we needed a few days. Let us have this. Tracy said yes. Because Tracy, for all her sharp edges and her schemes and her formidable presence, knows what it looks like when a family needs to be left alone to heal. So they went. And Port Charles held its breath a little bit. Because Jason being away again, even briefly, even voluntarily, even for the best possible reason, triggered the particular anxiety that comes from having missed him for so long. But the return date is confirmed. Jason and Danny come back on a Friday. And when they walk back through those doors, the father having had days of uninterrupted presence with his son, the son having had days of seeing his father choose him consistently and without competing priorities, everything is going to look different. The rounds Jason makes when he returns are going to be fascinating to watch. Seeing Sunny and navigating what has changed in that relationship. Finding Carly and absorbing the reality of her life with Valentine. Eventually crossing paths with Britt and sitting with what exists and what might need to shift between them. And carrying through all of it the particular quiet of a man who has decided, finally and completely, who he is and what he is for. Jason Morgan went away as one version of himself. He is coming back as something more settled and more purposeful. And how Port Charles responds to that, how the people who love him adjust to a Jason who is no longer available in exactly the ways he used to be available, is going to drive some of the richest storytelling of the fall. Darlings, Port Charles is in the middle of something extraordinary right now. Jocelyn whispering an apology towards someone she does not know is still breathing. Jason and his son having the days they should have had years ago. And Britt standing at the threshold of a future that looks nothing like anything she planned, which, in Port Charles, is usually exactly when the best things happen.